Okay, here we go, guys. This is kind of an aggravating one, but look. Look at the front of this unit. This is a Collins 30L. Okay, now we took this in on trade, and at the time the gentleman was using it. My understanding is it was working, and I don't dispute that. We've tested the tubes and they're fine. But the unit itself right now is not. When you got it here, it's not performing. So this is what we found out. He sent us pictures of this, of the unit put together. And if you look at this faceplate now, that's a beautiful faceplate. And at a glance, it looks like a well taken care of Collins. But when we went to find out why we're not really making any power, this is the mess we ran into. Now look, on every Collins 30L, I don't care how good it's running. If you buy one, you call our parts, you get the freaking replacement relay for it, and you replace that. If you're going to keep it, manually keyed, they keep it all original. Go to our parts. That's the first thing you do with this thing. Always put a new relay in it. I don't care if it looks good. I change them because every freaking 30L I've had has done this. So we're addressing that. But in the midst of addressing that, I noticed when we first turned this thing on, it's showing me 2,000 plate volts. Well, it does have 572Bs in it. That's fine. But now, look at this faceplate. You dig? That's beautiful, right? That faceplate is not the original faceplate. And this is how I know. This is the cap bank. Okay? Can you see all this? That's water. Okay, now I don't believe the gentleman that traded this in knew this, because I just don't see him sticking his hands in stuff to find out. And like I said, at the time he was using it, it was working. This is what happened. Somebody stored this unit, and it got flooded. I don't care what anybody says. Look, even underneath where this board is supposed to be mounted down, that is all corrosion from water. Okay, the caps themselves still are reading within spec. However, that's not good. That's just freaking not good. So we're ripping all that out. But what we've also found out is, now here, look at the caps and look at all this water damage. And if you go through the unit, you can find, hints of it everywhere on this chassis, on the filament choke. It doesn't really show it well in the video. There you go. You see, now that's not burnt. Okay, that's not been heated up or overdriven or nothing. That's water. Okay, but now let's look at the transformer. That transformer ain't been sitting in no water. Look at the screws. Them nice shiny screws holding down this relatively clean transformer that looks period correct, but if you look at it, it is kind of stabbed in there. Well, what I believe happened was after the flood, somebody dug it out, and transformer was probably, when they plugged it in, probably went to smoking. They said, all right, well, we got this laying around, let's just put it together and sell it, which is what most guys do. This unit, in the condition it's in, is the equivalent of going and buying what you thought was a really nice car and coming to find out it's got 2 inches of Bondo all the way around the body. That's what this is the equivalent of. Somebody threw this together, put a nice, shiny, good-looking faceplate on it, a decent shell. The shell looks great. It's all beautiful. Peaches and cream until you try to use it. And then when we tried to use it, we found really what's going on with this piece. So, what do you do? It's already been hot rodded. This transformer, usually only supposed to see 1,600 volts of plate in this unit. And those tubes will run at that. However, I'm not going to complain about the 2,000 plate volts. We'll take it. But I just wish he'd have known more. This video, this part of this video, we're going to save this unit. I'm going to fix it. I always do. I can't stand to see them die. Especially these Collins. These are nice pieces. And 572Bs on top of it. Match set. So, technology has afforded us, when I replace these big long caps, these are what they're getting replaced with. Now, these are, I think they're Nippons. What are these? These are good. These are good. These are good caps. I mean, they're not god-awful expensive. Yeah, these are Nippons? Nippons, yeah. This is a 100 mic, 450 volt cap. That's how big it is, sitting on a transformer. This is the cap we're replacing that was put in it originally, 30, 40 years ago. So here, I'm basically going to be able to get all 6 in the real estate that one of these caps used to take up. I'm going to get the whole bag of 6 in there. But that's going to afford me some room. And since this amp is so far past original anyway, we're not really the sinners. We're just going to kind of keep it alive. So, but we are going to go ahead and Frankenstein it even a little bit more. I'm going to redo the voltage doubler. Now on the bottom, it's just a pain in the ass to lift up. We're not going to do that. Actually, you can see all this corrosion on the board, which we've cleaned off. But the diodes are all checking perfect. Now the diodes are a little sturdier, I believe, than the envelopes on these caps. So the diodes, all the rectifiers are checking perfect. So we're going to leave what's not broke alone. And the only reason I'm going to go ahead and change these is because anything that stores current and then gets floated in water, it can't be good in the long term. I don't see a good ending for this. So we're going to recap it. And in the space that I acquire from using the smaller caps, we're going to use that real estate to also put a smaller, independently ran, independently fed 12-volt circuit with an automatic keying circuits. And what's going to happen is on the board you see here, I'm probably going to get all 6 of these caps right here. Underneath this on the other side, once you lift it up, what it's going to be, all these are going to be gone then. These are all FUBAR, they're gone. But if you know anything about a doubler circuit, one side of the secondary is coming to the middle of these is actually being fed here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all 6 of the caps and we're going to Gorilla Glue tape them to the top up here. And a little bit of hillbilly engineering there, but it works just fine. I've shipped these things all over the place, never had one come loose. So we're going to put the caps back in that way, but it's going to gain us a lot of real estate on the other side of the board to nicely put in a 12-volt circuit, a keying sense transistor. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a small little relay on this board. And it's going to become the manual key for this relay. Now, there's some dancing that has to be done there. This originally is a 120 volt AC relay, and I don't have. Here's the original. Okay, now this is the second one that was in there, and not even making power. When I put this in, these were shiny. So that's pretty much showing me we got some other problems. This is the style it wants, and what happens is, when your Yaesu, Kenwood, whatever, closes this jack, and all it's doing is closing the shield to the center conductor. At that point, it's feeding straight ground to one side of this relay that's in here. But in the same token, when it does that, when it fires this relay, it's also throwing that same ground to the cathodes of the tubes. It's turning the tubes on. We're replacing it with a 12-volt DC relay, which is going to be ran off our new independent 12-volt circuit, okay? But this is what we're going to do so that the amp doesn't know we're changing much. As far as the amp's concerned, everything's going to work the same. What's going to happen is this relay is a double pole, double throw, okay? And it rests in that position. Boop, it's turned around, rests in that position. So what happens is when the chassis ground comes to fire this relay, it's also chassis grounding the cathodes on the bottom of the tubes. That's where it's feeding it, right? Got to run the camera and find the wires here. Okay. So what we're going to do is, we are going to bond the ground of the system with the chassis, but we still need to flip that on when we turn the relay on, and doing it with a 12-volt trigger like we're going to be doing is going to be a 12-volt negatively fed trigger is not going to accommodate those cathodes. Number one, it's DC rectified. Two, it's just not going to work. We can't feed that DC. Period. So what we're going to do is we're going to install a DC unit that is still going to control our input and output to the tubes, input and output to the back of the amp. However, the third pole, we're going to have one line go straight to ground, and then the other wire is going to be this wire, so that when this relay engages independently in that one little circuit right here, when this relay closes, It's going to throw the cathodes to ground and still have what it is used to seeing, which is literally the chassis ground, not a rectified ground from a controlled circuit. That's not going to work here. So when we're done, it's going to be, this is going to be resting with positive 12 volts on one side. Over here will be, we'll run the sense from this side. It'll come around, we'll hide it, it'll come into the keying transistor and relay that we're going to put on this board. And what we're going to do is that transistor is going to key a nice small light duty relay so that that transistor doesn't work so hard to clamp this big one. Okay, because this big one's going to, they draw milliamps, a lot more milliamps than the little bitty triggering ones we use. So it's kind of, it's kind of an overkill way to do it, but it's a nice way to do it because that transistor is never going to pop from somebody ratchet jawing and keeping this big coil clamped down doing its job, where it's actually just going to run. I've got one laying up here somewhere, but I don't know where. So you guys see them there on our, here. It's these relays that we use right here on our mobile boards. What we're going to do is we're going to use one of these on the other, that's nice, just dropped a brand new board. On the other side of this circuit, we're on the other side of this board with a keying circuit, which I think we pulled off of here to do something else. Yeah, we pulled the keying circuit off of this one. It's transistor, diode, and a cap. It's not a big deal. It's not rocket science. So we're going to run a sense over to the input, and what will happen is when you key the sense wire over here, it's going to fire this transistor. It's going to close the relay on this board, which in turn is going to throw a nice hot ground all the way to this one, a nice solid one, to ground this relay. So that the transistor that's doing the work is not doing the heavy lifting. It's just telling the big guys what to do, which is a nice way to do it. It gives it longevity. And especially when you got to remember, now we're going to be hitting this unit with a couple hundred watts peak at the end of the day. So, whatever, the transistor we use is a pretty hardy little transistor, but still, it's not gonna dissipate what it needs to from a 200 watt PEP load and keep this clamped without having a problem sooner or later. So that's why we put the redundancy of the second relay in there. So that's what's going to happen. But here, when you guys see these units and they look like that, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a beautiful unit on the front. It looks like it's been well taken care of. That's because the faceplate came off of one that was well taken care of. The transformer looks period correct, and if you didn't know, no, never mind. And these weren't all freaking corroded. You probably wouldn't look twice other than the 2,000 plate volts you see on the meter, which, if you know, a 30L is only supposed to be 16, normally because it's running 811As. So this is a hot rodded one. Can't do nothing about it. It's the way we got it. I'm not putting it back to normal. I'm not buying a transformer for this thing. So we're going to leave it alone. We're going to leave it hot rodded. I'm going to dumb down the voltage a little bit if I can, but I don't know. We're going to play. That's my Frankenstein in my brain that all you guys tell me I'm crazy, and then I make a video saying it's working, and nobody wants to send me an email then saying how good it is. They just want to send me emails saying that you can't do that. I think they're getting tired of wasting their time too, because you guys saw it with that copycat. We literally got fucked with that copycat. They sat here and blew a transformer. So, you get me once, you'll get me twice. That was a single 3-500Z, and we put enough transformer in that thing to run two 3500Zs. And the man that's using it's been offered an outstanding amount of money for it. You can't buy that amp from him. This is the same situation. Okay, somebody made a half-hearted effort to put this thing together. The gentleman that traded to me just happened to be the unlucky winner. When you guys buy these amps, make it a point to insist on either video or, if it's in person, pull the frickin' shell off and look, okay? Just look for corrosion. Look for blobbed solder. Look for these caps bubbling out on the ends on the positive side of the electrolytics, okay? When you see, and another thing, you see these are old riveted style, this is tack welded here on this side, but I think these might be tacked on in the middle too. I don't know. These are really old. These are the originals. Honestly, just for maintenance, they should have been changed already. Thank goodness, for this unit, the technology is going to. Oh, here's the relay we're going to use. This is going to be our redundant relay. I knew we had it up here. This little guy is going to do the heavy lifting for this guy. Okay. So it's going to be a nice way to do it. So at that point, we will put a standby switch on the front so you can, have this thing in standby. But at the end of the day, when I go to test this, I'm going to use that 86V right there. I'm going to put this outstanding Dirty Bird we've got, this Firebird 500, which is, yes, an original F500. That's the original face, original covers. You can still see your reflection in the chassis of this freaking thing. That's how clean it is. So we're going to take that and we're going to dumb it down on low, and then we're going to drive this with it and see how many people we can piss off at the end of the day. So that's our plan. It's another rescue mission. I mean, guys, here, and I don't mind fixing them. And this one is one that, even like that copycat, it was worth fixing if you had the money. If you didn't have the money, it was still worth fixing if you had the parts laying around. That's our situation. If a unit comes in like this and I got to dump a bunch of cash into it, it goes over there. And you see that way big one under those two DACs, that one's fixing to get gutted for the mere purpose that it's a homebrew. And it's not worth putting the money into. So it's worth more to me in parts than it is as a functional unit. So that's the way we're going to do that one. This one is not. This one is worth more. Just stop and look at the historical aspect. These were used in commercial broadcast and for the ham operators. So, this is a nice piece. I can't say I agree with what they did, but when you guys buy these things, look, first thing you do is grab your wallet, and the next thing you do is grab a screwdriver and look at the inside of the units. Make sure they haven't got bulging caps. Look in there and see if the caps have been changed. You see a rack of brand new caps, that's a good sign. That means it's been given some love. You see this shit? That's bad. Now, if somebody brought this to me and wanted to pay me for what I'm going to have to do to this amp to make it functional, it would still be worth it for the owner. You're still going to have, a 1,200 watt amp when you're done, 1,1500 watt PEP amp. And it's still going to be less than what you would pay for a brand new one. And it has the historical value as well, being a Collins. I'll give it to whoever did this. They were smart enough to get a nice brand new front panel for it, knobs and everything. None of that shit's ever been soaked in water. Look at that. But that's something that's a little bit harder to change right there. So I'm pretty sure that this thing got waterlogged, was in a flood, something, and somebody with a little bit of knowledge and a lot of parts laying around dolled it up for sale. That's what happened. They threw a quick paint job. I just took it through the Mako car wash and sent it to this guy. So we don't abide by that around here. When I'm done with this box, it's going to be proper. When I'm done with this box, you're going to be able to talk on it every day. When I'm done with this box, when you look inside, you're not going to go, ooh, shit, what happened in there? So, guys, please, this is more of a buyer beware than it is me complaining. I'm not complaining. I expect to have to change caps and shit in these amps. I do. When I take them in on trade, believe me, I'm taking all that into consideration. However, this amp was worth what I'm giving the man for it as far as the conversion that he wants. This is a horse trading deal, and that's fine. And this is going to be a good customer, so we're going to go the extra mile for him. Had I known this was in this condition, I still would have taken it in, okay? Just because by the time I'm done with all new caps, despite the hot rod, which is taken away from the originality of it, it will have the 572Bs. It will be a little bit hotter. I expect to see 12 to 15 a peak out of this when I'm done easily. And when I'm done, it'll be proper. Nice new caps. We're going to get rid of as much corrosion as we can. We're going to resolder the entire unit. I'm going to pull these air variables completely out, deoxidize them. I'm losing my headset. We're going to pull these air variables completely out, deoxidize them, soak them in carbochlor, get them good and clean, re-lube, the sections where it's doing its job on the bearings in the front and the back. We repack those if they have actual bearings on them. I think these do. So when we're done, when I say we recondition you guys, I'm losing my headset, guys. You got to bear with me. I hate this. When we say we recondition these things, that's no BS. We take these things down apart as far as we can, deoxidize them, clean them, fin for fin if we can get in there. And believe it or not, I got a tool that will get in all those fins and clean all the shit out of them. So when we're done, the amp's going to be as clean as it can be, considering where it's been. And we're going to go ahead and get rid of the rest of the cancer that should have been gotten rid of. Look, if you're going to do this conversion, this was really not a bad conversion. Having 2,000 plate volts in this amp is not a draw, it's not a problem in any way, shape, or form, especially if you're going to use the damn thing and not just sit there and look at it and rub yourself in places you only talk about at parties. If you're actually going to use this amp, then yes, we're going to make it usable. Whoever did this conversion should have took the time to rebuild the cap board. That's really what I'm seeing that I don't like. I expected problems, expected to have to do this, but not for this reason. Okay? This calls into question the integrity of the rest of the unit. Period. Just because it's been somewhere where this was soaked long enough to do this. Okay? Somebody's cleaned the rest of it up pretty decent. And it's possible it was just standing up on this side when it got soaked. You don't know. Bottom line is, I'm not doing any work I didn't expect to do, but I'm doing it for a reason that I really don't like seeing, because now it calls into suspect a lot of other issues that I'm going to have to make sure and address before I put the last screw in this thing and tell somebody that it's 10/8 straight, 409 ready. So, that badge means something. When it says 409 strong, 10/8 straight, that means I've been through the entire box, and I will stand behind it as long as I have a pulse. This box is worthy of that kind of attention. That box being as clean as it was when I got it had no tubes and needed to be completely rebuilt simply because it sat for too long. But we went ahead and did it. That's a beautiful piece now. It was worth it. This is worth it. When people do shit like this is not a bad box, but it's a homebrew. You got to be careful how much you sink into somebody else's ideas. Okay, this is a proven idea. That's we're in the 2020s now. This thing was built in probably the 1960s, late 1960s, early 1970s. I'm sure there's a way to find out. So anyway, guys, buyer beware. Look at the stuff as good as you can before you buy them. I'll give you a quick lesson in tube checking without a tube tester. I think the tube is we've got our tube in the tube vault. If you look at these tubes and you see a ton of shrapnel laying in the bottom of here, that's no good. Okay? If the sections that are supposed to be the reflectors have, turned brown, and that's not all necessarily bad, but it's an indication of wear. Here, right here you see it's nice and shiny still. Okay? Another thing is you check now, the parasitic chokes in this thing were baked. So we made a new set. So it's got a new set of parasitics in it. Look at all that stuff. If these resistors in between these, and I got to straighten the wiring on these and make it actually ring right, but we will. When we're done, these will all be spaced properly. But the resistors in here were baked. If you don't have no high, and that was something else. It said we had, this is another lesson, guys. Just because this meter on the front says you have voltage here, doesn't mean you have the voltage here. And this is where it needs to go. This is where you need a 1600 to 2000 volts. Okay, without that, it's a paperweight. Now, in this unit, quick lesson for you guys that like to play with Collins, when you get one that says 1600 here, but has nothing up here, you go back over here, and you see what I've done here? This is two 10 ohm resistors at 25 watts, which has made us a 5 ohm at 50 watts. From the factory right behind this is like a 10 or 5 or 10 watt 5 or 10 ohm 25 watt resistor. And basically what it is the fuse to protect the high voltage output from a short in the RF deck. Now, lots of times that resistor will go bad. It did in this one. It was baked. That's why we did this. And then we looking at this going, oh shit. That's when I decided to hell with it. We're just going to go through the whole amp. So now, we're going to recap it. We've already got a nice new protection, an inrush current resistor basically. And to keep, if something shorts up here, it's going to take a second. This will blow before this will. So that's what it's there for. And that's what it did. It did its job. But when you see voltage on the meter, this is what's happening. The meter is actually measuring the voltage as it lives on the power supply board that it's coming from. That is its test point. So now let's get into reality. We don't need the voltage at the test point. We need we do, but we also need the voltage at the top of the tubes where it's got to do its damn job. So just because it says, I got my voltage, it says it right on the front. Okay, but where's the voltage going? Is it getting to the top of the tubes? 7 times out of 10 on a Collins 30L, when you see voltage on the front and have none on the tubes, that resistor right in there is going to be blown. Change it, be done with it. Here, when you do the relay, do the resistor even if it's not blown. The age of this unit alone justifies that, okay? So here, I'm going to stop ranting and raving. We got some work to do. This is a nice piece, and it is worth saving. We're going to do that. And we are getting ready to do some, finally, we've had, it's just been a crazy couple, 3-4 weeks, guys. So that's why we haven't been on the air as much. But this media stuff takes time. And now, if you want to look at my workload, I am one man. That's one side of the room. This was my table for the little bit of comfort I had. This is the next set of shelves and shit we just had to put in. I am one person. Don't get me wrong. I am not complaining, guys. I'm going to do all the work you guys send me. But keep in mind, I am one person. And some of the stuff you guys are asking for is pretty intricate. You guys call me for stuff you want, not for stuff that you need. Stuff that you need will get you quickly. Stuff that you want requires the type of time and money that produces quality. And if you want that quality, you're going to have to wait for it. And you have to pay for it. So, this ain't a garage sale. Believe me, guys, when I came back, we did a lot of stuff super cheap just to kind of get back in the game. I think we've more than proven that we are worthy of taking care of your or anybody else's equipment. And we got some projects going on now I can't even talk about. I can't even put them on video. It's crazy. But look, even if you don't come to me, go to somebody that knows the equipment that you have, that you're letting them stick their hands in. Because you cannot just run down to the Cobra 2000 store anymore. You can't run down to the Collins store anymore. You can't order a Heath kit and that's never been built. I would kill to find one of these 220s that's still in the box, sealed, and never been built. I would kill to get one of those. I've seen them, but they ain't in my price range. But, being at the level that I've achieved, that I believe I've achieved at my age, I would love to be the guy to pull one of those fresh out of the box and build it. Man, I would just love that. So anyway, here we go. We're gonna save this Collins. Like I said, this is nothing that I didn't expect. I didn't expect the transformer being changed. And like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing. However, don't do half the job. Why are you going to spend all the time to retrofit this transformer in here and then leave all those caps that have obviously been water soaked? If I were at a ham fest and buying this amp, I'd have shined a light down through all the shit and saw this and been, nope, cut the price in half. What I'm going to have to do to this amplifier is a $300-400 repair to the average Joe walking in the door. So here, try to vet what you're spending your money on. Even if you don't call me, and I'm not saying I'm the know-all, end-all. I am not. I'm grateful that a lot of you guys have the faith in me that you do, but don't get it twisted. I haven't reinvented the wheel in this place. All we do is do stuff right. If you do it right and be honest with people, then things will come about. When I got back into this business, I didn't know who was who and what was what. And I walked around for 6 months playing like I was the village idiot. And I did it on purpose. Because I found out who the real village idiots were. And now it's paying dividends. Because sometimes silence is golden. And when it comes to what you know, believe me, silence is golden. Act as dumb as you can when you're around other technicians. Just one of my tips. Anyway, never mind all that, guys. Nothing we didn't expect. But not for the reasons. And I didn't expect the hot-rodded transformer. But I'm not complaining. Because these 572Bs functioning properly with 2,000 plate volts, it's going to be a joy to run. but we've got to give it some love first. And bottom line is we've got our media section back up. We got our computer back up and running. We've got more than $1,000 worth of parts that are hitting the door slowly that we've ordered for projects. That the 6-tuber is incognito right now because it's getting tube sockets put in it and drilled. There's a lid for it, though. This one is going to be for Mr. George Plockton down in Texas. He is one of my very favorite people. I am going to gut this Heathkit SB221 that I took in. No, actually it was given to me from a good friend of mine. He didn't know the filament transformer was bad and it had some other bad issues. So what we're going to do is we're going to gut it because the doc is he's a Heathkit fan. So we may keep the teal and gray, but when we're done, unfortunately, the Heathkit badge will come off. This is going to be a pair of 4CX250Ks when we're done. He's going to get about a 100-watt dead key and about 1,800 watts of PEP. But what we are going to do, which we are doing for the first time, is going legit. The doc is a licensed ham guy, and he wants proper equipment. So we are going to build our first amplifier with a band switch that goes 80 to 10 meters. So that's happening. But a lot of stuff happening. The videos are going to start popping up again slowly and more frequently because, as you can see, I'm the one-legged man at an ass-kicking contest right now. So here we go. I'm going to tell you something. Those are going to be 2 DACs. They're going to absolutely blow you guys' mind. We're getting ready to start this 9. I'm waiting for transformers for this 10. Now, I can't tell you who's building this 10, but I will tell you what's going in it. I've been given that permission. This DAC 10 is going to have a brand new Cobra 148 chassis. In this window is going to be a 6-digit counter. The rest of it is going to look stock. However, instead of a pill amp or even what we thought was awesome at the time, a pair of 6LQ6 finals, we're putting a 4CX250K metal ceramic envelope tube in this thing. It's the exact same tube as a 250B, like what you would see in your Prides. However, it has a different socket. And some guys are, in the hands of a lesser technician, that would be a problem. But not for us here. So we bought up a bunch of them tubes, and we're building amps out of them, and they're kicking ass all over the place. So, but that DAC 10 is going to be a 148 chassis with a 6 to 800 watt PEP final. We're still designing that one on paper. I've talked to the guy already. The key to making that particular radio work is going to be transformers. I'm trying to keep it all in that box. I don't want to have to make that a 2-piece to achieve the goal that this gentleman wants to see out of the main box here. This one's going to be really nice. This belongs to a gentleman in Pennsylvania. Actually, is the one we're doing for this amp. We are going to put a PC76 and a pair of 6LQ6s in it. Real simple. Nice SWR bridge to drive. And that's something else. This gentleman sent us the meters. These meters on a DAC, you don't just wire them straight to any radio, okay? The best way to do that we found is when you gut a DAC and you rebuild it, okay? Go get yourself an old set of PDC 600s or something, that triple meter set, and then pull the SWR bridge out, feed the SWR meter with the appropriate wires, and so on and so forth, all the way across, power, modulation, all that's in that SWR bridge that you would normally sit outside the radio as a watt meter. We're just going to build that bridge into the unit so that when both of these radios are done, it's not going to matter if he has an external watt meter or not, because the relative output meter that we're going to set up on the front of these radios will be accurate for forward PEP readings. Now, they're not going to get actual numbers, but they're going to be able to tune that tube for its forward peak maximum. And if they check it on an external watt meter, they're going to see the two match. Swing-wise, the external watt meter is obviously going to give you your numbers. This one's just a nice way, an accurate way, to go ahead and peak your tubes. So, man, it's going on around here, people. It's going on. So there it is. Back back to the, I'm rambling today. We haven't been able to do videos in so long. I'm just going nuts. So here we go. Collins 30L. That was basically a pig in a very nice dress. However, I like bacon, so we're going to fix this thing. And I'm going to fix it the way I would fix something. In other words, if I were going to keep it, sometimes I got to keep them. Sometimes you guys don't buy them. So when I fix them, I fix them. And this one will be 10-8 straight, 409 strong. If it ain't got that badge on it somewhere, better call me or somebody else, because if somebody else has got one of my boxes, you just became a victim. Keep that in mind. 7-3s, wash your damn hands, change your drawers. We'll see you.